Generation Dialogue. I'm your host. My name is Mpho Pops Mudikwane, and joining me today are the Zungu brothers, ladies and gentlemen, namely Manzini Zungu, entrepreneur, and the president of the Black Business Council, Mr. Sandile Zungu. If you'd like to listen in on our dialogue, make sure you do so on www.safm.gbv, hashtag MyEnoughIsOurEnough, and hashtag Mambimpi67. So, ladies and gentlemen, joining me here today are the Zungu brothers. They are the brains behind this campaign. These are the people that are spearheading this conversation, and we're going to get into it with them just now. I know normally I'd start off with a happy Women's Month to all the incredible women of South Africa, but unfortunately for me, I don't see anything happy about it. You know, we are all facing a pandemic that's happening in the world right now, but South African women are being faced with a pandemic that they've been facing even before this new pandemic came, and that is gender-based violence and femicide. Every day we're hearing something new. Every day there's reported cases, and there's not enough that's being done. There's a healing process that needs to happen in our country, and there's unlearning and certain learnings that need to happen with the men in this country. So here with me today, ladies and gentlemen, I have two prominent businessmen that are behind the My Enough is Our Enough movement, and we're going to have a discussion with them today about GBV and femicide in South Africa. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay, so first things first, gents, what brings us here today?
A few months ago, my brother had a chat with me. It was along the lines of lamentations about the troubles that women in South Africa are faced with: rape, femicide, abuse, and so on. And with men in South Africa being on the other side of the equation, he was filled with a lot of revulsion, and he felt that something ought to be done about this. And I said, Kwabini, I'm equally incensed about the whole thing. Surely there are millions of other men out there, good men, who want to put an end to this thing. Why don't we have a dialogue among ourselves and assist this very important movement? And hence, the need to say, my enough is our enough, became a rallying call. And hence we're here today.
We as men in South Africa, we wanted to spark a national conversation. We've been seeing evidence piling up in front of our eyes. We've seen women in South Africa marching, trying to make sure that this sketch comes to the end. And we've seen women in South Africa crying out for help to the authorities in this country. But we, as men in South Africa, have been passive. And we felt that it is about time that we take responsibility and accountability, and we put an end to these horrendous crimes that have happened to women and children in our country.
I couldn't agree with you more. The time for action is now. It is right now. And you know, I take my hat off to you guys, and I think this is a brilliant initiative that you guys have embarked on. I do, however, want to point out, as you said, it's about starting a discussion, starting the conversation. And right now, people will be saying things like, just having a conversation is not enough. So what are the campaign objectives?
Like I said before, Paul, is to spark a national conversation.
Yes.
We as men in South Africa, so that we take responsibility and accountability. And that's why this campaign is led by us as citizens, not by us as business leaders. There's no title to it, because we're bringing accountability to it. It is not the organizations that we lead or the other firms out there in the world that commits crime to women and children, but it is individual men. So we're coming to the fore because we want to spark that conversation, take responsibility, and be accountable as men in South Africa.
I agree.
You see, critics may raise issues such as conversation after conversation. But the reality is that thousands of years, hundreds of years, and decades of what one would call misogyny, male chauvinism, cannot be dispensed with one or two conversations. There must be many conversations. And those who are very comfortable about matters of GBV may feel impatient because for a long time they've been talking to themselves in an echo chamber. And they think that other people are very well versed with the issues. The truth is, no, it is not.
It's not
because male chauvinism is embedded in cultural heritages.
Toxic masculinity.
Toxic masculinity, yes. And so it's very important that before we talk about war, magliwe, as others will contend, that we have to exhaust the jaw era, where we have to talk among ourselves. But indeed, we are also very impatient that the laws of this country, which are there to protect women, must be put to good use. And those who are committing crime against women can never plead ignorance that what they are doing is illegal. So a law book must be thrown at them whilst we're having these conversations. So law must take its course whilst we're having the conversations. But it's very important that beyond this talk, a massive movement must come forth, which will actually push this frontier of GBV to the edge.
I think it comes with a certain air of frustration from everyone. It's exactly what you said when you were starting out. You've had enough. Enough is enough. And I think the reason why everyone is at war stage is because we want to see things done. We want to see action being taken. We want a quick solution to a long-term problem. And as you've articulated, it unfortunately it has to start with conversations. It has to start with us having these conversations amongst everyone to make sure that everyone is on the same plane, so to speak. You know? So what I want to know is, what are beyond this conversation, beyond having this conversation and many like it, what are the outcomes, the planned outcomes of the campaign going forward?
Yes, Paul, we come in different areas of responsibility. Me and my brother, we are in business. You are from the entertainment industry. There are men in leadership, community leadership, chiefs, kings, the government. My brother mentioned the authorities, that the book of law must be thrown to perpetrators. In those areas of responsibility where we have influence, we need to make a change. The intervention of action is not a magic wand that we're going to come today and things have become better. But we just want to intervene at a certain space of influence, be it your home. The responsibility starts within your home. You are a father. You are a brother. You have sisters. You have aunts and mothers. But it is the responsibility. It is the way of life. And why us now? There are other interventions that are there, but it cannot be enough. It cannot be that intervention alone. We are coming together because we need to have a unified voice. And this unified voice comes from men themselves.
See, for the longest time, the gender agenda has been a niche, marginal kind of conversation agenda.
This is
We are mainstreaming the gender agenda. It must become a part of our daily routine.
Yes.
In homes,
Yes.
in corporates. What better way to mainstream this agenda than having eminent men
Yes.
in various walks of life, whether it's showbiz, entertainment,
world of
sports,
business.
social, philanthropy or entrepreneurship, being at the forefront of this conversation. Because it's only once a conversation is mainstreamed that practical, tangible plan of action will emerge,
Yes.
which then takes firm root. So we are doing our part. We do not for any moment pretend this is the panacea to all the ills facing women. There are those who are facing the wrath of men, evil men, who demand a better form of action than dialogue.
Yes.
But all we can say is, whilst we have a lot of empathy for them, but we plead for greater patience for men leading a conversation. Because this conversation must involve us as men, because the perpetrators of gender-based violence and femicide are men after all.
Yes. Thank you for putting that so eloquently. You know, I'm listening to the things we're talking about today, and this is such a sensitive topic. You know, we had these discussions off camera around how we need to be very careful about what we say, what we don't say. But I agree with you 100%. It needs to start with conversations. We need to have these conversations. So what I want to ask you guys is, what do you want the listeners to take home from today's conversation?
Well, I'll say the first thing that listeners must take is that men care.
Yes.
Men may be in some circles considered trash, as we'll have seen in hashtags.
Yes.
But to counter that argument, it must be known that men in South Africa care about women issues. And that's where it starts. And it is also to say, you know, we have a responsibility as men to correct our own errors, and to take this as a conversation that we must have with our future leaders, especially young men that we're raising, and guide them to become responsible husbands, responsible partners, responsible fathers, and responsible brothers.
Yes.
In future. And that responsibility starts with a conversation.
Yeah.
We cannot run away from that conversation. So that's a big take that we wish for South Africans to have out of this conversation today.
Mr. Manzini?
Yes, Paul, and we want women in South Africa to know that we're not going to keep quiet any longer. We're not going to be passive onlookers to this second pandemic. We're going to call each other out, but we're going to reach out to men, the perpetrators. And I'm going to repeat this. Those perpetrators, the law must take its course.
Yes.
And the law, the full might of the law must be harsh to the perpetrators. But it doesn't only end there. Like my brother has said, that the ones that we raised, we need to raise them to be great statesmen.
Yes.
Men that will take care of the nation,
Yes.
will take care of the country. My brother says future leaders. They are future leaders, yes, and yes, they are leaders right now. And it is us as men that we need to impart that. But we cannot go around it. The perpetrators must face the full might of the law.
Yes.
The authorities, the authorities must do what the Constitution and the law says. And we, as responsible men that want to be accountable, we want to say the time that we stand on the sidelines, we see women in South Africa doing it for themselves.
Yes.
Yes, there is the song that says sisters are doing it for themselves.
Yes.
And we are not saying we are coming as men to empower, but we are coming as men in South Africa to stand side by side and say, my enough is our enough. We cannot allow this anymore.
The most important part is that women do know that we care
Yes.
and that we're here and we're holding their hands, we were fighting with them. And, you know, to the discussion of perpetrators and the law, I think it's something we'll get into at a later stage, where not a lot is being done for the women of South Africa in terms of the law, in terms of persecutions. You know, you have so many cases that are reported, and yet not so many persecutions that are happening. So it's something that has to be taken up, not just with us as men of South Africa, but also with the justice system in this country.
Yes.
You know, and why it is failing to protect the women of this country. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you are joining us now, we are having a gender-based violence discussion, which is the My Enough is Our Enough intervention of action dialogue, in association with SAFM and in partnership with #Mampimpi67. Please join us after the break. Don't go anywhere. If you want to engage in this conversation on social media, the hashtags to follow are #MyEnoughIsOurEnough, #EndGBV, and #Mampimpi67. We'll see you guys after the break.
Mzansi Afrika kwaba kuyasesabulawa kwaba kuyasesabulawa sajojwa soneni Mzansi Afrika kwaba kuyasesavuka kunomntwana etukubeziwe kwaba kuyasesavuka kunowesifazane osethunjiwe kwaba kuyasesavuka kunowesifazane ohlukunyeziwe uhlukumeza sabulalana sode Mzansi Afrika siyanimema makhosi esizwe inyathi lehambise ngamemazibulene njengomzingela amatekane osebenzisa inhlomjokane kandaba ukudliwa ngamanqaqa umfazi umkasukuzwayo udla usukuzana nendodana yakhe kaze mahamela umlomo wazimele befana unkosela kaze usikazi womdibosha engabo kwenza nina kamasamulele lapha emhlambi abantu khona iselele umashobaza kanonqanqo washo badela izindlubu zikamuhle namakhasi wadla izinto ezimbili kwantsondombani ikhamba khipha selilini sikhalela ukwehlulwa kwaba kuyaseka thiwa nqamla lapha yebi yandlela kaSompisi.
My enough is your enough. The reason snakes bite us is because they never met their mothers. But us as human beings, we have met our mothers, even though maybe you never met your mother, but you have seen mothers in your community. Who taught you to kill your own grandmother? Who taught you to kill your own sister? Who taught you to kill your own mother-in-law? We wish to thank the Zungu brothers. Manzini Zungu, Sandile Zungu, thank you so much for standing up for our women. Iswe lise manzini mhlabu yaphenduka awesifazane uphenduke inyamazane wesifazane usephenduka unogwaja yizwe lisemanzini sikhalela omama bethu sikhalela ogogo bethu siphinde sikhalele izingane zethu umsebenzi wendoda ukuba ngumvikeli umsebenzi wendoda wokunakekela isizwe iswe lisemanzini mhlaba uyaphenduka masinakekele izingane zethu nabesifazane bethu bayo balekela phina ngoba yithi okumele sibanakekele mhlaba uyaphenduka mhlaba uyaphenduka izwe liphenduka umphando wengonyama awesifazane wethuka izanya mihla namalanga iswelise manzini nakekela muntu wesilisa phenduka wena ndoda umhlaba usezandleni zethu masihlonipha wesifazane nayo uyakusihlonipha basithwele laba bantu basinakekela labantu Chikikimbala timba chukila kakakara nula timbari wefapari nda chikimbala ndoti iswe lisemanzini mhlaba uya phenduka muntu wesilisa nakekela wesifazane mawube indoda yiba indoda izwe lisemanzini qhubeka nemthetho on base.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mpopops Mudikwane. If you're just joining us, welcome to the My Enough is Our Enough Intervention of Action Dialogue. I am joined in studio by the Zungu brothers, and just to add in, we have two more gentlemen. We are joined by none other than soccer legend, the man who scored the first World Cup goal here on African soil, Mr. Simpiwe Shabalala. And next to him, ladies and gentlemen, we have clinical psychologist and lecturer at the University of Johannesburg, Mr. Anele. Thank you for joining us, gentlemen. Thank you for being a part of this conversation. If you'd like to join our conversation, make sure you use the hashtag MyEnoughIsOurEnough, hashtag EndGBV, and hashtag Mapimpi67. Okay, so gentlemen, welcome. Thank you for being a part of this discussion. I want to kick off the first set of questions, and I want to direct it to the Zungu brothers. We know why the campaign was started and the need to do so, but many ask, why now? So, when this has been something that's been persisting for so many years, why is it that we're doing this now?
It's a very interesting question, Mpo. It's a very interesting question. I'm reminded of a time in Japan when corruption was so rife, that those who dared to intervene to stop corruption were faced with the same question. Wasting time? Why now? Why not 30 years ago when this thing was taking firm roots? We're faced with the same question here. Why now? When violence against women is a daily occurrence and it's been happening around us in our lives since time immemorial. It has become a pandemic. It's become a scourge. It's important that we do something now so that in 50 years' time when we are asked what stopped it, we can say 50 years ago we resolved that my enough is our enough. And we did something about it. And this scourge can be stopped, can be silenced. And that moment to start with the movement is now.
Mr. Anele, I have a question for you. Why, in your opinion, are men unwilling to call each other out when they know someone in their circle who's an abuser? Why do men find it hard to do that?
I'm at a point where there's a level of discomfort about the concept again of what it means to be a man in society. Our definitions and understanding of what it means to be a man, I think it starts there. And in what he mentioned around the now time, it has always been there, right? It is just that now reality confronts us every day and makes us realize that the depth of this is far more deeper into thinking about it, but to start, it's time to really do something about it. But the problem starts with the language of what men use, right? Our languaging, the constructs of our understanding of language, it's there.
Yes.
If you go to the township, we are very sophisticated in our understanding of what it means to be man, or what it means to understand what it means to define ourselves as men. So if we don't have proper languaging, right, of naming things and calling of things that are not right. So it has always been a common narrative in society that being a man comes with power, with privilege,
Yes.
with authority, and all that comes with that. And that psychologically, from as early as you are a young boy, you are socialized into believing that you are superior, that there's something inherently beautiful about you being a boy, right? The problem is it's in the management of how we talk about what it means to be a boy and how to use that construct.
Yes.
And again, using the understanding of what it means to be that person. Gender-based violence has always been there. And the problem is, again, going back to language, for us to call it as gender-based violence or as violence, we're thinking of the physical, right? We're thinking of violence, we're thinking of attack, we're thinking of all of that. But our language is very violent in the way we talk about women and in the way that we talk about girls. So for as long as I understand in my languaging and in my way of interacting and seeing that girl as that girl, lamtana, landomazana, all of those things, then we will have problems. So why it's so hard for us to talk about it? Our language normalizes it. Until we as men in such spaces, we can become uncomfortable about the discomfort of our language, we will be able to do something great.
So the other question I want to pose to you is, what, in your opinion, are the root causes of gender-based violence, and why is it so prevalent?
I like that you say in my opinion.
Yes.
It gives me leverage and ground because, one, it starts with social constructs. You know, the way we are socialized plays a significant role in the way we interact with the world.
Yes. This is
Violence in our communities is so rife and it's normalized, right? Until we understand that from as early as a young age, that when a young boy sees his sister or a neighbor who's a girl doesn't see gender before. The description of this is what this is what not it is. But it is a matter of helping that young boy understand that this is a person. For as long as we put gender before, I see a woman, and the script of how we are socialized in seeing a woman is weak. Right? A woman is it's objectified. And again, going back to my example, and you brought this, you see the physical first, and you miss the identity of this person. And for as we can do so much work in trying to say enough is enough, but for as long as we don't understand the psyche of what it means to be a woman, and these words that we use, female and all, what it means to be a woman, would understand of what it means to deal with this person. And in the way of why, the reasons of what causes it, we have created the beast. So the causes, it's social systems, and the words that are always there about sexism, about patriarchy and all of that. Patriarchy, it says, "Diyindoda," right? I know, right? I've got power. I can control you. I can tell, move. And again, according to whose terms. And that's how we've been socialized. And again, the reasons why we are sitting where we're at in terms of the causes, they are very multifaceted. It's not one single cause. And again, families. And again, I always say to people, monkey see, monkey do. If I've been exposed to many chances and situations where gender-based violence was the business of the day at home, consciously and unconsciously, I learned to be a monster.
You've raised so many points that I feel like we'd like to get into. But I think the most important one that I'm going to walk away with is there's a lot of learning that needs to happen, but at the same time, there's a lot of unlearning that needs to happen. Also, in the same breath, there's a lot of teaching that needs to happen from us, older, influential gentlemen, to the more, to the youth, to the more younger men of this country. Shaba, you're a legend, Shaba. You know, you're a soccer legend. For me, I find myself here because I want to learn and I want to be a part of the solution. You know, as a man, I know I'm part of the problem, day in, day out. But I'm here today because I've taken a stand and I want to be part of something. I want to do something, you know? So why is it important for you to be a part of this campaign?
Yeah, good afternoon to fellow panelists. I think it's important for me to, you know, be part of this worthy campaign because I'm a public figure, I'm a role model. Therefore, I have to use my position of influence, you know, to champion this campaign and take a stand, you know, and support the victims and also be the voice and say that we as men, you know, we've kept quiet for so long.
For way too long.
You know, and, you know, it doesn't mean that when you're keeping quiet, you're not guilty, you know. I think that has been our problem, ignorance.
Yes.
And we only react when it happens to our loved ones.
Someone close to
And
us.
yes, so it has been happening for quite some time. And all of us have a role to play in society. And, you know, when I do my philanthropic work with young people, you know, I can see that the disrespect of women has become a norm in society and the abuse as well. You know, you find that kids are playing, but there'll be those ones that when a woman or a girl passes and then they start whistling, you know, and they use vulgar, and it's normal. For them, it's normal, and they've seen it happening to you know, their elders as well, you know. So I simply say that we have to condemn such. You know, we have to take a stand. A lot of lives were lost. And as men as well, we must learn that, we must learn to say sorry. We must learn to take responsibility and stop feeling that, you know, when you're saying sorry, then it somehow takes off your dignity.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. You know, we see it as an admission of guilt.
Yeah.
And we don't see it as a way of saying, you know, we're acknowledging the severity of our behavior. We're acknowledging how deep-rooted this thing is. Sandile and Manzini, you are both well-known businessmen. However, you are spearheading this campaign in your personal capacity as ordinary citizens of South Africa. Why is it important to you?
We as men have many veils, have many shields behind which we can seek refuge and hide our transgressions. And one of them is institutions that we've created, whether they be political institutions, and we say the ANC's position on gender is this. What about your position?
Yes.
We say Anglo-American policy on gender
Yes.
is this. Zungu Investments Company position or Pasinamic's position on gender-based violence is this. And therefore, because I'm an employee, because I'm a member of this party, or because I've sworn to be a member of parliament behind this party, and therefore it is assumed I subscribe to this. It's absolute nonsense. So what we're saying is, let's pierce these veils and let's stand out there and take responsibility and take a position to be then scrutinized, to be held to a standard that we have sworn ourselves to as individuals. Because it is us who lead families. It is not our corporates. It is not our political parties. It is us who are seen as mentors, as people to look up to,
Leaders, yes.
as leaders. So it's very important that a movement like this has identifiable faces, names, surnames, and addresses for it to really take root. Let's stop hiding behind these empty veils. Because when transgressions happen, society says, because they did not mean much, these veils, and therefore we forgive them. Because we didn't expect much. If something happens in my offices at Zungu Investments Company, and it's Zungu Investments Company, what about a responsibility being attributed to a specific individuals? And therefore it's very important that my enough is our enough is spearheaded by men who are saying we are beginning to take responsibility, not because we're excluding women. It's because we have been the abusers, we have been the perpetrators, and it is us who must actually stand out there and be counted.
Manzini?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Kwabini, there. And picking up from Anele, and this is the way of going to our communities, be villages, be townships. And as Shaba has alluded, that during his philanthropic work, he sees these things from the young ones. And we start to have these conversations so that we intercept these youngsters, that they don't get into criminal ways of doing things. By these conversations, as we are known in industries that we come from, communities that we come from, we're sending that message that it doesn't have to be a criminal act for it to end. We need to stop it by talking, educating, mentoring. Yes. And that's what we seek to achieve. And we are not only doing it here, but we are reaching out to those that are not the perpetrators. We've said earlier that the perpetrators must face the full might of the law.
Yes.
And must face the full might of other men that are tired to be passive watchers or onlookers.
You know, you mentioned that, and Anele, it brings me back to the topic of perpetrators. And majority of perpetrators of GBV are known to their victims and survivors. I'll say that again. Majority of perpetrators of GBV are known to their victims and survivors. What causes this?
I'm of the view that your first contact of violence is someone that knows you. Chances are, an outsider, yes, it can happen, but it's people that we live with, that we know. And it's been happening. And again, through certain cultural notions and scripts, if it happens in the family, you're raped by your uncle, or something happens, we'll deal with it as a kaya.
Yes.
Right? We need to protect your uncle, right? As a psychologist in practice, I deal with most of those cases. Victims who report that I have been raped or I have been abused by my boss, by my uncle, by this, by that. So it's not going to come from very far. It's going to come from a friend, right? That you have trusted. To mention a very interesting theological word, admissions of sin, right? It's more like you're going to your father and say, I've sinned, right? And the problem with the kind of sin that we create as men, it's sin that is very difficult for accepting and acknowledging. The fact of the matter, Paul, we must accept that it is not going to be easy for women to trust us again, right? It is okay to accept when women say, we are not satisfied, we're still hurting. Give us the chance to heal and hear you. You've been around for some time. You know the TRC,
Yes.
Truth and Reconciliation Commission.
Yes.
This approach is not going to work with gender-based violence because the fact of the matter is I'm still bleeding. Don't think your apology is going to heal me, right? Don't think your apology is going to make it better. Don't think your apology is going to make it easier for me to reclaim what was lost. Remember, at the time you abused me, or at the time you did something to me, something of me, in me, died.
Yes.
And you can't resurrect that. You can't resurrect my dignity. You can't resurrect my personhood that I lost through you violating my consent and my ability to say no. There's no amount of sorry and forgive me that can seal that trauma. And again, Paul, psychologically, if you were to ask for forgiveness from a woman who's raped, who does not even know the father of that child or who raped me, the level of psychological trauma, that child being a constant reminder that I did not consent to that, but I need to learn to live and love you, right? How do you reconcile the constant trauma of gang rape, that I lost my personhood? How do you reconcile a lesbian woman who was raped because a man wanted to prove that you are a woman? Negating my choice and my will and who am I? So in all of that, in all of the reformation, reconstruction and all of that, we can probably apply them in certain spaces. But when it comes into gender-based violence, maybe we need to come with a different term of these perpetrators coming forward. Because are you reforming for who? For yourself or for me, right? And what are you going to do to me for me to trust you that you mean what you are saying?
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, on that note, remember, you can also be a part of the conversation. Just join the hashtag #MyEnoughIsOurEnough, #EndGBV, and #MaPimpi67. We'll see you guys after the break, but in the meantime, please make sure you enjoy the soothing sounds of Umbuso Khoza.
Kala moya wami ulahlekele ngobuhle ulahlekele injabulo buya mntana umuntu buya ngani umuntu lo luthanda lujwayelekanga uyalibona lugoje emaphakatheni lo luthando lungolwakho angeke ngiphile nawe lesinyembezi zokuthi ngikhale some ma khala moya wami khala ulahlelwe yikho konke kwakho khala moya wami sangizokhala ngikhale somuntu angiphinde ngikhale awusengizokhala phinde ngikhale njalo ngikhale khala moya wami oh ulahlekelwe ezakwakho mama what did I take it back shut it again better than nothing more waiting the baby getting back better than chicken nothing up here spam wange on keyboards Welcome back to the My Enough is Our Enough Intervention of Action campaign. And now for this segment, we are joined live by none other than Rugby World Cup champion for the year 2019, Makazole Mapimpi. You do have a long-term plan after hashtag Mapimpi67, which is powered by Brand South Africa. Yes. Can you take us through what this campaign is all about?
Thanks, God, to give me this opportunity to speak out. I started my campaign in the Nelson Mandela Day against gender-based violence. We know what's going on in South Africa, and loo nto leyo kudala isenzeka minyaka ngeminyaka sithule singathethi. And I decided myself to let me stand up and let me call all men in South Africa come together, and we can chat about the situation, and sizothetha ngayo ukuze uba singayisombulula njani na ukuze sizokwazi ukuvana sonke and also siprotecte abantu besimame.
Malume Shaba, what are some of the lessons that you'll be taking away from campaigning?
Yeah, I think let me first commend the Zungu brothers and Mr. Mapimpi for this initiative and giving us this platform as well to express our diverse views. I think all of us here are not experts, but we are here to learn as well, and to give an input. And obviously the common objective is to be the voice of the campaign and bring change.
Yes.
And definitely also empower others as well with the knowledge that I've got from this platform. And from my side, it's a plea to all men that it's enough now. Mm-hmm. Let's change our ways. Let's change our thinking as well. Let's respect women as well. There's issue of gender equality as well. We need to give women a chance. They also deserve a chance. And machita le no kwa a re hlompheng batho ba bomme re tloleng abuse ya loka, and re kope hape to the justice system. I think they must also come to the party and help us as well, because in other countries, yes, it's happening, but it's not as worse as it's happening in South Africa. It seems like it's just easy, and even the perpetrators they get away with it easily, So we apologize to those affected, the victims, mm-hmm. And we hope that it will stop.
Makazole, I'm coming to you right now, sir. I'd like to know from my side, what have been some of the challenges that you faced since you started this initiative, and what are your plans going forward?
Thank you so much again, Paul, to give me this opportunity to speak out again. And I would like to say thank you so much to the Zungu brothers to allow me to join. My enough is our enough. And my challenges and is facing the situation. I would say Zenenzi, but I'm trying ngiyazama kuze nokwami ndizokwazi usupporta le campaign yenzegayo, and ndizokwazi ukuthi usupporta abantu besimami. And also I'm trying to bring a lot of men to come together and sibumbane sibe moyami. And I feel like from each challenges zininzi endazifesa, even ngoku ndandikhula, and ukhula kwami ndakhula nogogo wami, and ndikhula ne-sisters zam, and ndikhula ne-cousins zam, and ndibone izinto ezininzi in front of mna ngexesha ndisakhulayo. And also that time ndandindedwa umuntu oyindoda endlini njengoko mntu mdala and ukhusele ifamily. So and that time ndandimncinci zendimndoda umuntu okhusele ifamily at that time. But at that time, zengenazo powers to speak or to say something or to show bandim indoda kule ndlu, not physically, just nje uthetha or communicate nabantu. And like difunde a lot about ihlobo abafazi aba-abuse ngalo, and ndibonile amadoda ihlobo a-abuse ngalo i-sisters zam. And also not just for sisters, just around Glendale and Salabuya before. And it's tough again because of Tina Band see sing a matot most yet, not Tina sing about sing a matot only, and a band base mami. Konja classicula is cooler, most yethu sikhuliswa ngomama bethu, asinabo otata bethu. And also for me, and I feel like we need to do something, and we need to protect family zethu, abantwana bethu, sister bethu, and omama bethu. To say that, like, it's tough because of uyakwazi ukhuliswa ngumama wakho ungenayo utata, and also umama wakho utata wakho also, and umama wakho also ngumama wakho. So it's tough to umuntu okhulayo obonayo le situation ayibonayo before mna, because of we have izinto ezithu into yokuba ubone into yokuba umuntu how to ufundisa umuntu ongumama ukuba wenza kanjani na. So the only thing you can do, it's either uzambetha or you can chat. So ungumuntu wena into ozibonayo zininzi into yokuba or it's either i-right le nto yobetha umuntu ongumama or i-wrong. So i-risk loo nto leyo ke as kwabantwana abakhulayo. Now le nto siyithethayo asithetheli into yangoku, sithethela in future. Le campaign isenzele just for now, senzele for in future, abantwana abazayo, abantwana abakhulayo basibone basenza ntoni na. That's for me.
That's beautiful. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I think that's very important that we're not only doing this for us now, we're not doing it for the here and now, we're also doing it for future generations that are to come as part of the unlearning, learning, and educating. Mr. Manzini, is there anything you'd like to add?
Oh yes. Kunesisho sakithi kwaZulu esithi into ehlula amadoda iyabikwa.
Into ehlula amadoda iyabikwa.
And ngiyazi ukuthi abanye abantu bazodideka ukuthi ibikwaphi. Yayithi masihlula amadoda bese yahanjwa uyobikwa komama. Uthi nayi inkiyanki isihlula. So what I'm trying to say ukuthi this initiative by men, by us, is endaweni right that we stand, and we stand in our areas of influence. And ngiyakuthanda lokho kushiwo umfowethu ukuthi let us not take an easy way out. The people below. Let us take our peers, not only verbally, but the way we lead.
Yes.
The way we construct conversations. I had a lot of unlearning in these conversations. But we coming together as men to have a unified voice, to have critical mass, Kwabin, to be an everyday life. Let this conversation be our lifestyle as men.
Yes.
Just like wanting to buy that German sedan, to having your lovely shoes, Anel. But don't you dare touch a woman.
Yes.
Don't you dare talk to a woman like that. Let us have this deconstruct and construct. And this is the right forum. And other interventions that are there. We are not an organization. We are not a gender-based organization. We're coming here as ordinary men of influence in our country to say my enough is enough. Kodwa uma ngabe sihlulekile sizoya kuphi? We have to come with the solutions. Because if we fail, we need to go back as my language says, we need to go back to the women of South Africa and sibike kubo. So we have to win this battle. We have to win. To win the war, we have to start winning the battle. That's why Kwabini says the conversations, they create critical mass. And let us make it a lifestyle, not to touch a woman.
Yes.
And let us make it a lifestyle for women to trust us. That if I go to Mpo, to Anele, Magazole, you know, and say, I've got this problem. something will happen. There is a problem in my community. There is a problem that is happening within your cycle. Can you intervene? I said to my brother earlier that even these problems that we see that are happening, domestic issues, there is the absence of the elderly voice.
Yes.
You know, elderly men. You don't have to be an elder because of your age. You become an elder because of the
Your
way
wisdom.
you lead your life,
Yes.
your position, and the influence and the person that you are. You don't have to be the president of the BBC. You can be a good man that every Sunday walks with his family to church.
Yes.
You know, you can be a good man that wakes up on a Saturday and say, Molo mhlobam.
Yes.
But if we fail, where are we going to go? I'm saying I want to challenge men in our country that we cannot fail to end the scourge of women abuse, and particularly women killing that are happening. We can no longer tolerate that.
Like we said, ladies and gentlemen, we can't just have one conversation around this issue. This is just the beginning of many. This is the first of many. And we would like to continue having these conversations. And we'd like you to be a part of these conversations. So remember to join us using the hashtag #MyEnoughIsOurEnough, #EndGBV, and #Mapimbi67. Right about now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to link to a special performance by Usipogazi. We'll see you guys after this.
This song is dedicated to men out there. We say men are trash. And I believe that trash is something that was useful at some point in life. And that brings us to a question. What happened to these men? Some men are born in broken families. Some are born in abusive families. And some grow up with wrong role models. The pain and the hurt that has not been dealt with, it bursts out at some point. We should empower the boy child the way we empower a girl child, so that when this girl grows up and meets her man or husband, they are both empowered the same way. In times of frustration, tandaza. In times of affliction, lila, fuma. Don't endure frustration and affliction. Uzakuthoba manxeba, apholise izilonda, zinikele kuye. Uzakukhulula, uzakuthoba manxeba, apholise izilonda, zinikele kuye. Till when are we going to be afraid of our fathers, our uncles, our male cousins, and our brothers? Females are at risk and under pressure when they are born and when we die. This thing affects both the rich and the poor. When this woman has to accept the fact that this man can bring the sickness into their home at any time, and not only the STDs, how about the stress and the stroke? Isaza lastini when you know that you were born out of a woman yourself.
Masibuzeni nyathi ngoba phambili, masibuzeni, 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 masixeleni livo yintoni ubuntu, masixeleni.
Baxhatshazwa ngokwesini, baxhatshazwa ngokomoya. Izawuphela nini le mfazwe? Ingaba ziintsuku zokugcina yini na?
Masibuzeni nyathi ngoba phambili, masibuzeni, 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 masixeleni livo masibuzeni ndlela yo baphila kanye kutheni bexhatshazwa nje umuntu yini kutheni bunqabile nje kutheni sixhatshazwe nje hayi bunqabile ubuntu bunqabile ubuntu isazela sifile senzeni na senzeni na senzeni ke oh hayi kubuhlungu oh hayi kubuhlungu masibuzeni nyathi kwabaphambili masibuzeni
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the My Enough is Our Enough Intervention of Action campaign. We have come to the end of our discussion, but remember, this is just the first of many. Malume Mapimpi, I'm gonna head over to you. Ngoba siyazi ukuthi data is a real struggle. So, asifuna ukuqeda data yakho kunini ulapho. Hey. So, we're gonna throw to you, Putwami. In closing, what would you like to say?
Yeah, for me, ndizawuthanda ukuthi ndibulele nje kwi-brothers zakwaZungu zonivumela ukuthi ndibe kule campaign yabo and ndibulele nakuni apho. And ndizawuvalelisa ngelithi mani makhe sibumbane and singamadoda alapha eSouth Africa and masibumbane. It's not only amadoda only. And we need to sibumbane singabantu besimame nangamadoda sicebisane ukuthi lento lena sizayenza njani ukuthi iphele. And also kufuneka sithethile thina singamadoda kwezo ndawo sihlala kuzo, because I feel like incoko iqala khona ukuthi xa sowuthetha ukuthi lento ibithethwa ngubhuti Anele ukuthi lento le is not about physicality and it's all about mindset yakho xa sowucinga. And most especially because so born in Domozan, the only thing you think about to do something kuye. And that's why again what I'm saying, we need as a man have a chat. Just to think about this thing, chat about this thing, because it's the same thing when you're thinking about who's Tengeli PM. Wherever you go, wherever you go, you PM, one day in design. Let's just think about this thing when we chat, when you see Indombazane, okay, let me stop. So I feel like for me now, we need to chat more as Singamatod and we need to stick together. That's a message to all South African men. Thanks, man.
Thank you for that, Putwam. Of course. From a try to a goal. From the land of no goalkeepers to the land of goalkeepers. Malume Shaba, Rakwala Malume, is there anything obatlang go ibua Any food for thought, conclusioning about Lahuibua?
No, it's just a big thank you to my fellow panelists for a fruitful discussion, and I've learned a lot, and I'm really optimistic that this discussion will also inspire other men to do the same and change their mindset as well, and ke a leboga haholo liko champion na mapimpi siyabulela tata uqhubeke ngomsebenzi omuhle owenzayo lento le it's not personal glory, but it's ours as a collective.
Yes.
So we are all here to bring change and change impilo zabantu. So ngiyabulela nami for ukuthi ngithole ithuba lokuthi ngibe ipart yalo msebenzi omuhle.
Thank you for that, Mr. Simpiwe Shabalala, our resident lecturer. And
as I said,
yes,
my approach is I've just thought about this. I'm not sure if the execution, but my goal is this month, twice a week, I'll have about 3 slots for women.
Yes.
To have conversations about anything with me. Again, offering a practical aspect of saying we have the potential to listen, right? Fortunately, I'm amongst people who have influence. It's going to be powered by the Zungus and anyone else to see the goal is all about making change. Of how we're going to do it, it's going to be another conversation for us to think about. After this, let's have a post-discussion as to the plan and the execution of all of our interventions. And secondly, I see this as a birth of many things to happen. I imagine us having community dialogues,
yes,
where we will make sure that as this group of people and other men, we go to Soweto, we go to Alex, and start to bring this perspective of manhood that is positive.
Thank you so much for that. And just to touch on that topic of helping at least 3 women in a week, how would they contact you? How would they get in touch with you? What is the best medium?
We will communicate with the PR team as to how that's going to happen. Ideally, they would write an email and then I'll respond. So 20 minutes each, just as a matter of checking in what is the problem. And just, again, it's a matter of giving substance to something. And particularly, I would like it to be gender-based related cases.
Yes. So we will have all those details for you, ladies and gentlemen, as to how to make contact with Mr. Nele. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Mr. Zungu.
Yeah, Paul, I just want to thank you as well. And I know that you come from an entertainment industry, and you are at best at what you do to make us laugh. And you made sure that this is not a laughing matter. We've come together as men and to come and have a unified voice.
Yes.
So I want to thank you personally and thank my brother who stood up and said, let's do this. This is enough. We cannot just watch this happening in our country. And when Magazole's team reached out to us to say, I want to be part of this, and then we said, then the message is getting there. And we appreciate that. And to be in the midst of the clinical psychologists, for the first time in my life, I've learned a lot.
So much.
And a lot of unlearnings. There's a lot that I'm taking away that I must not sulk. Sulking is a form. That's another way of abuse. I mustn't slip and face the other way. And this we can win by being strategic.
Yes.
Winning the smaller battles first. Being men. You see what is happening in our country now. There's lots of interventions, but I will repeat this. Interventions like this, we cannot say it's enough. We need more of the men to come together in a unified voice and say, we can no longer go on like this as a country.
Yes.
My enough is our enough. Yes, hashtags are there, but times for only hashtag activism has passed.
It has, yeah. Thank you for that, Mr. Zungu. And once again, thank you for this amazing initiative. Thank you for literally being on your brother's heel and saying we need to do this, you know. It speaks to what we're talking about. It's the conversation that led to the action. And this is what this entire movement is about. Malume Sandile. Leadership.
Malume. You know, when the women marched to the union buildings,
yes,
whose action ultimately led to the recognition of this day as a Women's Day, they will never have envisaged that 26 years into our democracy, they will feel so deeply unappreciated by men. And the truth is, the continued oppression of women in many forms, including gender-based violence, is an economic imperative. It basically forces our country to punch way below its weight.
Yes.
So when we move forward and express ourselves as advocates and activists for a greater role for women in our society, we are saying, let our country flourish. In the words of Madiba, that our country will not be free until women in our midst are free. So it's a commitment that we have to make as men. Let's go back to the basics, because we can actually keep this conversation at a very sophisticated theoretical level. Let's go back to the basics. Stop the abuse of women, whether through femicide or through physical violence or through psychological, emotional abuse. It has to stop.
Yes.
It's not good. It's not cool. It's a travesty of justice. And here we are as men. I want to thank my fellow panelists and thank you, Magazole and Spiwe. You are the idols of our society. Thank you for joining forces with us. This is just a beginning, not an end.
Yes.
And with those few words, I must also thank you, Paul, for really rising to the challenge. You have done a stellar job.
Thank you for that, Sandile. From my side, gentlemen, I want to thank you. I want to thank the Zungu brothers. I want to thank Uput Makazole for the initiative, for this beautiful work that you're doing. And I'd like to thank you more than anything for trusting me with something so delicate and something so sensitive. You know, as a performer, I'm naturally nervous before any gig because I care about my delivery. You know, my career, my craft is solely dependent on how good I am and how good my last performance is. And going in today, it was just so nerve-wracking because I'm not here as an entertainer, much like the two of you aren't here as prominent businessmen. You are here as South African men. And that is why I am here today as well. I'm here as a man who is witnessing what is happening, who wants to be a part of the solution. And I thank you for trusting me with this position today. And to Uput Anele, I've learned so much today. I have really, really learned so much today. And like I said to you, I wish I had 4 hours with you, you know, because there's so many questions that I've had. There's so many things that I've witnessed, I've experienced that I needed to make sense of. And I felt like you've answered some of those for me. You know, there's still a lot more. And this is the reason why we're having these conversations, because there will be a lot more. And to Mr. Shabalala, thank you for scoring that first World Cup goal. It gave us hope. For a moment, we thought we were going to win. Shaba, from my side, one thing I'm very passionate about is kids. And the philanthropic work that you're doing is amazing. And your commitment, you said you're going to keep continuing teaching the youngsters. And I think one thing we must also remember as gentlemen from the panelists is we need to keep teaching our friends. Not just the kids, not just the young people, our friends. There's so many things Anele said today that I felt like I was like, I've done that. I've said this. I've been a part of this. And I think that's what we need to do is we need to realize the bad habits in our behavior, in our language, and we need to correct that and we need to rectify that. So to the women of South Africa, I would like to take this time to say, on behalf of all men, I apologize. There's so much wrong that has been done to you. There's so much that we haven't done. It's taken us a long time to react, to start doing something. And I'm saying to you that at this moment, we are taking initiative and we are becoming part of the solution. It might not be enough, our actions might not be as bold yet, but we are taking the necessary steps to rectifying this and to making sure that we eradicate the plight of GBV and femicide in our lifetime. And it starts with the initiatives like this. It starts with having conversations like this. We are doing our best, we're doing all that we can, and we are going to do more. We want to do more. So I'd like to take this time to wish you a happy Women's Month, a happy Women's Day. And I'd also like to take this time to invite all of you to be a part of this conversation. The only change we will see is once we actually start actively participating and engaging in these conversations, learning, unlearning, educating each other, our friends, our brothers, our colleagues. This thing of boys will be boys, it must fall. This thing of bro code, it must end. We'd like you to be a part of this conversation. We'd like to interact with you. We'd like to engage with you. We want to know your thoughts. We want to have a conversation with you. So please do join the conversation by using the hashtag #MyEnoughIsOurEnough, hashtag #Mapimpi67, and hashtag #EndGBV. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mpho Pops Wamudikwane, and I'd like to say enjoy your day and thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.